Um, that's how we roll here. Uh, Started off early. Gonna tweet out the space. Boom. Barry in the house. I will in that co-host invite. I am going to start listening. That co-host invite. Oh, we got to mute that. All right, and then I'm going to send.
Hi. Hello, Dagnum.
Yo, yo.
What's up, sexy?
What up? Oh, join as a co-host.
Yeah.
Look at that. Boom.
Boom. What's up, everyone?
All right. So that should be it. So you're and that is that. So we're just so to let you guys know, we're starting it off a little bit early just to give everybody enough time to get in here. We don't want anybody having technical difficulties getting in here because we want to make sure everybody has a chance to participate in all the alpha that we're going to dish out on this space. But before we kick off, please, everybody, tweet out this space. That's your job right now because we want to make sure that everybody knows that this is the space to get into right now. There's nothing else more important going on X than this space. So while I send out some messages, I'm going to let Alan know that we have kicked off the space a little bit early. Barry, what's up, brother? Barry's got his mic on.
Hello.
How's it going, Barry?
Hello, everyone. Hey, Dagnum. How's everyone doing tonight? Or today, or wherever you are?
Doing good.
Just got a glass of water. Ready to rock and roll with you, brother. Electrify the community. This is fun. It's been a long time since we've done this.
Yes, it has. Okay, sorry. I was just reaching out to Alan. I'm going to look for him, and I'm going to look for everybody else that's supposed to be here. I didn't. So some of the guests might not know that we kicked off early. So that's okay.
That's cool. We're all just chilling. We're hanging
Yeah.
out. Get a drink, guys, or get some food, or maybe some Korean food, or some pizza, or some tequila, some beer.
You
Mezcal,
got
if anyone likes mezcal.
you got any big plans for the holiday?
Um, any plans for the holiday? It's a good question. I have some family birthdays around the holiday, so we're gonna do some family time, celebrating. Maybe I'll buy a DAG node on July 4th. That might be some nice Independence Day activities. We'll see. We'll see. I don't know. Just
Man,
chilling. How about you?
yeah, I'm doing the same. I'm chilling. Got to fly back to my other job tomorrow. So that's kind of a bummer, but it's all right, man. It's good times. And man, so the DAG nodes are getting a little bit more expensive. We got a nice little bump in price action while we start off the July 1st bump. I think it's up like 20 something percent.
Yeah, I think we're going to see a lot more DAG boner candles as as the year progresses. But I think they're about to start, like they have been today. So, Dagna, man, you've been killing it on the marketing, just raising awareness, getting everyone excited about all the things that are coming. I'll take a little credit, but you really are, I think, just the voice of the community and have done an amazing, amazing job. Um, I will, I will give myself and you the same credit for being, I would say, two of the earliest OGs consistently showing up every single day to be here and with Constellation. I would say, I think it's been like, I don't know, 6 years, man, something like that. Does that sound
Yeah,
about right?
yeah, it's been the longest haul ever. But I'm glad, man. I mean, I'm super thankful for this opportunity that I got to sort of spearhead the socials and the marketing for Stardust. I mean, I just felt that it was it was good opportunity, and it's something that I've been doing anyway, and so might as well put my skills to good use. Um, it's definitely a difficult balance, though. Now for me, like juggling, the online persona versus the business side. So a lot of my attention now is on the back end stuff, and I've sort of seen that where I just can't dedicate as much as my time, on my personal account anyway, keeping up with all the latest and greatest because I'm still trying to. It's like wrangling a herd of cats, like trying to like get all these things lined up with all these KOLs and setting up big marketing campaigns. Getting ready to blast out tons of press releases. I mean, it's a lot of work, but I'm super excited. Ooh, ooh! I know who we're going to invite up as a speaker. We are going to invite up Adam Jones because he actually had some breaking news a couple of days ago. So, for those of you who don't know, Adam Jones is the CEO of Token Events. We got Token Events up in here. And they were on the inaugural flight program way back in, I think it was 2021. And so they were an incubated project, and they are going to change the event space. And a couple of days ago, they made an announcement saying that they are going to come back and build on Constellation. So they're going to utilize Metagraph technologies. So um, the
That's
network,
sick. That's
yeah.
amazing.
Oh, and we lost him. Oh, and then he's back up.
This is me. Hello.
Yo.
Yes.
What's
All of
up?
these.
Welcome.
Yeah. Thanks for having me. All the above is true. I was on I think, the first flight school,
Yeah.
and then we went off into the Great Chasm. That was the past 18 months, and caught a bunch of business. Also, we're one of the first companies. This isn't really exciting, but it's kind of hilarious. We were actually might have been the first or one of the first to put the SAEFT into place, which is Class B equity for future tokens, which was the design to skirt around Gary Gensler and company. It's quite the finger trap for anybody to try to attack U.S. businesses. When I was at Consensus presenting, because I got invited, because at the time it was very novel when people were pegging data to a price and putting together like IP around rewarding folks for the price of data. everybody was like, holy shit, like you can actually like skirt around all of this SEC madness by like giving Class B equity and tokens. I was like, apparently. and then like as things went on, it became kind of like the common way to do things, especially for US businesses. So I've had a few cycles within the cycle as a company myself. So it's been an interesting ride thus far. Yeah, thanks for having me and all that good stuff.
Yeah, man, we're
Welcome.
super excited to have you back in the family, and super excited to see your Metagraph and your token launch. Uh, you
Thanks.
know, and yeah, and for those of you who don't know, actually, and everybody who's been following me actually should know and should be aware of this. But actually, Token's platform has been live for at least a year and a half, and
Yeah, at least that long.
yeah, and me personally, I think going forward, at least to get around a lot of the regulation mumbo jumbo, I think that's going to be how you avoid Gary and Co. Is you're going to have to show utility before you launch a token. And that's exactly what they have done. So they have shown that they have a viable platform and that the whole thing works. And they've shown it in multiple use cases at different kinds of events all across the globe. And, now they're just scaling up and scaling out, and it's exciting.
Can you
Yeah.
can you maybe share what you started on DAG and you're back. Can you maybe share with us what you've learned, in the journey working with other
Yeah.
chains? Like what have you
So
learned? How's that been?
so the truth is initially, and again, man, like everything I say is complete transparent, and because I'm an engineer, so initially we started out on the concept of DAG. Like that's what we wanted to do, because initially when I built this out from scratch, it was actually like a mini kind of DAG system, right? It was my own proprietary ledger, and I was very much interested in the scalability of graphical databases, along with how you would build out a DAG system. And so for me, it was build or buy, and I was like, well, let's move to DAG. That being said, when we were ready to go live, before like the rug got pulled out from under everybody with like Luna and FTX and all the other banana town that happened the last cycle, we were actually in a weird position to go and do a bunch with a bunch of partners, and we had a bunch of deals inked. And then when Luna and the FTX stuff, everybody got cold feet. And then it was like, and we had already switched over to Polygon by that point, because we had to go and go now. And so we just continued down the Polygon path. And Dagnum knows too, the entire time I was keeping an eye on what was going on. And I kind of had a soft prediction as to like when metagraphs would when I think they would be fully ready to go live. And I'm not going to say like I'm like Nostradamus, but I'm pretty sure Dagnum I was close as to when I thought the plane was gonna land when we could go full scale. And so that's the reason why it's been more in line with the way that we process data in business, and not only at a synchronous or asynchronous level, but data security and where our world lives around taking that data and providing the sovereign user, with the ability to earn against that data. And then also the way that we use the data performatively for contextual advertising, marketing sciences, data sciences, and live audience segmentation. Where the metagraph is now versus where it was at in theory, it's now the right time to come back in and use the software for what it was the original intent was for. And so it's like the perfect time, like what felt like doom and gloom when everything was falling apart gave us time to do what Dagnum's talk about, prove the concept, prove go to market fit, all that good stuff, and then let technology catch up to where we are in the business cycle and where we are in the Web3 cycle, and everybody come out of the cave and actually go live, and now use the use the technology for what it's there for, and also apply it to a practical business case versus trying to shoehorn the business into the technology case, because you may start down one path and realize that it's not exactly what you need to do, and then you shift, and then just like anything, you let the product or the tech mature, and if it catches up with the business case, then you apply the tech, right? It's kind of like people don't get too hung up on whether or not you're on an Amazon server or you're on a GCP server. It's like, does the website work? And that's kind of where we live. We live in the world of, does it meet the business outcome, and does it help the user's journey? And are we changing the way that Web3 is positioning the overall zeitgeist? If yes, then we go. And so that's really the long, boring answer. It wasn't anything other than, was it ready at the time? No. Is it ready now? Yes. Will it fit the need for what we're trying to achieve for our greater community and greater use case as a business? Yes.
Well, that's beautifully said. And now that we've got some more people filing in here, we got the CEO in the house. What's up, Ben? We got Alex Brandes, and then we got Alan Bohm. We're still waiting for some of our other guests. We started a little bit early just to make sure everybody had a chance to jump in. I'll do a quick room reset. We're just talking about everything that's gone on in the ecosystem so far, and there has been a lot actually this year. We have the advisory board that came up about last, I think, November, which Alan is a part of. We had the inaugural Metagraph launch with Door Technologies. We had the Didgery Foundry. We had the DREC Alliance. We had a couple of weeks, well, maybe it was about a month ago, we had increased federal adoption. Today, I put out a demo of the DAG bridge. We've got 2 weeks away. We've got our Metagraph kickoff. I mean, things are just coming together in full speed. So it's an exciting time to be part of the Constellation ecosystem, and it's going to be great to see what happens just even in the near term. Like this hackathon, I'm super pumped just to even see like what are all the crazy use cases people come up with.
Yeah, the next few weeks, next few months are going to be earth-shattering. And I mean, as referenced before, Dagnum, you and I have been here for six years, and we've been patient because we've always trusted in what the Constellation core team had been building. Would love to bring in Ben, say hello, Alex, say hello. We'd love to have Intrana and Alan jump in. Let's just have this, we'll make this a free-flowing conversation. We'd love to have everybody. Yeah, nothing formal. Just please make yourselves heard. Share your voices.
Hey, I can jump in and start since I've got the speaker already set as a speaker. I see some of the other folks aren't, but yeah, I like you guys said, there's a ton of stuff happening this summer. There has been a lot that's happened already this year, and kind of into the last fall where we had our first Metagraph launch with Door. It seems like that was so long ago, but it was really just a few months ago. We've had Alpaca Metagraph launch just recently, which is a fun one, and I think illustrates some really important kind of functionality around how metagraphs can work and where they can fit into the Web 2 and existing Web 3 worlds, the ability to connect to different services pretty easily. And so it's exciting to see those things happen, those things launch. The hackathon we have coming up in just 2 weeks now is going to be huge. I think this is exactly what we need as an ecosystem. We have $100,000 in prizes that are coming from Constellation and Stardust, kind of in collaboration. We've got a number of sponsors and partners that we haven't announced yet that are going to be participating and contributing things to the prize pool, or just other other items for participants. And we expect to get hundreds of new developers coming in to participate in the hackathon. We just really need right now to kind of put gasoline on the fire, get builders building, launch dozens of Metagraph projects, and all of a sudden these things are really going to take off, and you're going to have a much more complete developer ecosystem where people are projects are feeding off of each other and reusing open source code, and a lot of the things that have been a little slow to start, but I think now is the time that it all starts to come together.
Yeah. So actually, Alan, maybe you can sort of share some of your insights. Especially you bring some interesting and unique perspectives, like from when you were at Coca-Cola. I've tried to tie in and simplify just how impactful. Even what Constellation has done with the Door device, the ability to plug in any existing IoT device to then, like, just what they did a couple of weeks ago with this alpaca token, and just all of the different use cases that brands specifically could leverage from this.
Well, great, thanks. I think we're sort of at this inflection point now in the enterprise space, where and if you look at loyalty programs, you look at just the general operations that are going on. There still is a bit of a misconception about what blockchain is and how blockchain works and the applicability there. But if you go down and you start looking at the business problems, and you look at the interactions between the brands and their suppliers, the brands and their consumers, the reality is it's very much like a barter system of just years and years ago. And the ability to create applications, the ability to create these new business capabilities where there's a free exchange of value, whether it's information or product or a combination thereof, and doing it in such a way where it's flexible, it creates ecosystems for within the brand communities and their customers and their consumers, is of immense benefit. And I don't think that the brands fully understand yet how simple it will become if they adopt an approach, a Web3 and a blockchain type of an approach. There's some education that needs to go on, but more and more people, and there are some organizations that are getting on the leading edge of this. If you look at Starbucks' latest loyalty program, and you look at some of these others, they're starting to really start taking advantage of these things. And I think that's going to be the future. Now, is it 3 months out? Is it 6 months out? As the economy tightens and we see more and more people wanting to get involved in loyalty and needing to do differential pricing and things of this nature, revenue optimization, there certainly is an opportunity for new capabilities to be brought into these companies. And it's not going to come from their traditional providers, but we just need to overcome a little bit of the fear that blockchain isn't ready for prime time. I'm convinced that it is. But we have to overcome that fear with some people that the blockchain isn't ready for prime time, or we have to overcome the fear that there's performance issues. All of these things are the past or the overhang, but tremendous strides have been made in the last 12 months that I think it's really an opportunity now for people to take it forward.
Yeah, and Adam, at Token Events, you actually bring in some historical insights from this perspective, working directly with brands. For those of you who don't know, Adam is the man responsible behind that Domino's pizza car.
Yeah, I'm also the evil guy that cracked voice ordering through the drive-through where there's no employees at McDonald's anymore too. Sorry. That's my bad. Yeah.
Is that dynamic yield or is that the AI thing?
So I was the executive director of technology for the innovation team at McDonald's. So I worked at Huge. I'm an agency guy, and we built out so the dynamic yield is one part, but we built out all of the voice ordering system from the second you went over the electromagnet to the order getting kicked off to the semantics of the reasoning and the logic and the AI and the build and how, like, someone in Alabama orders a Coke and fries different than someone from New York. We built in all of the machine learning and our little engine that could. It was all open source. We basically we built a free version of what they were trying to do on Microsoft and Amazon. Our little open source project that we worked on for them as an innovation tool beat out Microsoft and then Amazon, and then they took our little board. I mean, I'm talking. I bought like the Arduino and everything at Micro Center, and we set it up inside the restaurants, and our little thing ended up beating out Microsoft and Amazon, and then from there. They used our product to find the next voice company that they purchased, and then they purchased them, and then off to the races. Now they have fully automated restaurants because we were integrating with everything we were doing with because I worked on the application layer for mobile and web and in-store POS. So everything we were doing was injecting orders directly into the point of sale systems and having a person monitor it, and you could do it all remote and jump from store to store. So you could be listening to Singapore or like Romeoville, Illinois. It didn't matter. It was pretty wild. We were able to figure all that out. They gave us $80K in a month to come up with a concept, and then our proof of concept ended up buying an entire
I'd
company.
love to jump, and that's awesome, man. I'd love to jump back to Alan for a second. And Alan, great to meet you. We haven't had the pleasure to speak, but it's a pleasure to chat with you. I wanted to come back to you for a second because you're obviously on the Constellation Advisory Board. I'm sure you've talked to quite a few companies and projects in the crypto space, but would love to just hear from you why Constellation, and thank you for taking the time to speak with us tonight. Why Constellation and why not any of the, other 20 something trillion crypto companies and projects out there?
Well, I think what got me excited when I started looking into it was just a lot of the enhancements, a lot of the concept of the metagraph and the ability to interoperate with any type of data. The corporations are not closed loop systems, and there's all kinds of different data that you have to be able to interface with all kinds of different data sources. So I'd say it's almost like the openness of the environment, um, which provides the opportunity to create for brands and enterprises ecosystems by themselves, but it's almost like concentric ecosystems because everybody needs to touch everybody. And I think that's one of the things that I really was drawn to here was the ability for that, and I think the team itself is just really strong. The performance improvements that I've seen, how things are moving forward quickly. It's almost as if a lot of the concerns that we had in enterprises the last 3, 4, 5 years are now have now been addressed, and so you can almost do a restart in the enterprise and thinking of this space. And I think that's really where I've seen it. The latest release with Alpaca, and what you could do with a reward token, is also something I've been thinking about for years. But now it's coming to fruition. So again, I think we're at this inflection point. I think that the speed, the reliability, the team is what really got me excited. But now I'm starting to see things come together, and I'm hoping the developer community keeps expanding and expanding, because once that happens, then enterprises will end up adopting more and more things as soon as the ecosystem gets bigger. And I think we're on our way now. And I think that's what gets me excited, is this is the start, the rebirth of something that is much needed out there in the enterprise space.
Alex Brantis, what are you excited by? And Ben Jorgensen, to you, of course, would love to hear from you as well. co-founder and CEO. We'd love to hear from you both. And yeah.
I can jump on that one. I'm not sure if Ben's able to jump in and speak right now. Yeah, I mean, there's definitely a lot to be excited about. I think that the model that that Constellation is pushing forward is fairly unique in the crypto space. So we have a lot of attributes that are just different than other projects. The idea of metagraphs that are built as microservices, and so we're able to scale independent layers as the throughput needs in those layers change. That's unique. It's exciting. The ability to interact with external services, so we can adapt to a third party data format and ingest that rather than forcing that third party to push data in our RPC format or whatever format it is. We're able to kind of adjust, and then we're also pushing forward with Euclid and the currency framework. A development framework that's a lot more like a backend web server framework, in that you have complete access to the code base. You can import your own libraries, which means that you can make use of other people's good work and just implement that, and so you can develop a lot faster. So that's I think what draws me to the project and keeps me excited every day. I think just a lot of what we have is so there's so many different pieces that are unique that it's sometimes a little more challenging to explain and kind of educate folks on what all those pieces are and how they fit together and how to be really successful in building on the platform. But there's a lot. I mean, just as part of this exercise with setting up the hackathon and getting everything ready for that. Part of that is, we came up with a list of 30 or I don't know how many, 30 or 40 different metagraph ideas that could be launched, today with, with the existing framework. And we want to push those out there for the hackathon so folks can like quickly get ideas and say, okay, I could do this or tweak it and combine with my idea. But there's just so much that's still ready to be built that we're just at the beginning here. I know it's been it's a long journey, but we're really just at the beginning, and hopefully we'll see a lot of these exciting projects start to launch soon.
So, Alan, to sort of piggyback on something that you mentioned early, you had mentioned that Starbucks has gone into this field, but why do you think, given your perspective as a CTO at Coca-Cola, who also tried to do some cool and innovative things, like why do you suppose Starbucks didn't push this any further, and what makes Constellation's technology in your eyes different?
Well, I think you have to look at where Starbucks was starting from a real legacy system in their loyalty program, and it was so embedded and it's so connected to all of their internal systems that what they ended up doing was just building a layer on top of it. And so they modernized the layer on top, which really ends up being the consumer interface, but they're still bound by the the areas of the old application and the limitations of that old application. In fact, their old application, they had spun it out to an outside company and created it as an outside company at one time to offer to others, and then that joint venture has pretty much gone by the wayside at this point, as they went ahead and built something new on top of it. I think that where Constellation comes in is that here is an opportunity to, and because all of these systems are old, here's an opportunity to really replace in its entirety what's going on there. That means, though, there's going to be a lot of integration. There's going to be integration in the food service business with POS systems. There's going to be integration in the retail with another set of POS systems and local inventory control systems in retail outlets. Certainly the online stuff is pretty simple to do and pretty straightforward because there's a limited number of commerce packages that are out there. But I think that what Constellation brings to the table is that interoperability across and the interconnectivity that will allow brands to work together. When I was at H&M, we would always do collaborations with different designers. The same thing, same concept needs to apply whether you're buying a Coke and a burger together at one quick serve restaurant, or it's a Coke and a burrito or something of that nature. There's going to be things that are slightly different, and that flexibility is really what's key. And I think that's one of the things that I've seen with what Constellation is looking to lay the groundwork for. So we're early on in the journey, but now's the opportunity to make some big changes here.
And Alan, just have a question for you. Obviously, coming from Coca-Cola, which is consumer packaged goods, H&M, which is brick and mortar retail, and I think e-commerce, I'm pretty sure, very certain actually. Which of these two spaces do you see as blockchain maybe disrupting first, or even adding value to first, or changing first? I guess I'll preempt by saying we know Door is all over the brick and mortar retail space, but what are you most excited by? Where do you see the most change happening within these industries?
Well, I mean, I think the easiest is any industry that touches a consumer direct. That's going to be the easiest. But where the real power is going to come from is, I always say that innovation comes from the white spaces. And the white spaces are those things that are defined between two borders or two boundaries. A boundary can be a corporation, or it could be a customer and a corporation. It can be a consumer and a customer and a corporation. And I think that's where I see the biggest value coming. As soon as people realize that we don't have to look at large monolithic approaches to things anymore, that things can be done in a distributed fashion, that's when we're going to see this huge value creation come. But because that takes commercial partnerships, it takes legal partnerships, it takes sometimes regulatory considerations. It's a little tougher to do, but that's the value. But I believe that the interaction between the consumer and the brands is going to be the starting point. And when you have a retailer that has direct knows who their customers are on every transaction, that's the easiest starting point.
And where do you think the easiest, for these brands? So, like, one of the things that Constellation does, that it has a huge advantage is, it can validate data at the edge. So and now we've seen in the news how cloud computing and edge computing are a necessity. How, for example, like let's go back to Starbucks. Like how would you see Starbucks potentially leveraging Constellation's metagraphs?
Well, I think that I've been talking about edge computing for the last 5 to 7 years. I've one time I proclaimed a lot of the stuff that's being done in the cloud is dead, or it's done inappropriately in the cloud. But that's been that was the only solution available as enterprises started closing their data centers in order to save on capital costs. So the one thing that the one area where Constellation is going to be able to play a big role is that as consumers, as people that are interacting, we hate latency. And there's been all these promises that by installing 5G, you're going to be able to improve latency, but you're still having to go back to a database that's sitting in the cloud somewhere. And we're very impatient people, especially having worked in Europe. Americans are actually more impatient than the Europeans, I found, in these interactions. And I think that's where Constellation comes into play, is it doesn't defeat latency, but it gives you an alternative to dealing with latency in a different architectural construct. And that's where I believe we need to go. There's one company that I love their architecture in the fast food industry, and that's Chick-fil-A. I'm going to give them a shout out here. I mean, they have built something on the edge in all of their restaurants. Now that's great, but it still could use some improvement because it's a little bit slower than others. But I think that as we start seeing more and more companies realize that edge computing needs to be a larger percentage of what they're doing on an interaction basis, that's when the rest of this stuff is going to be the uptake's going to come, and I think that's where Constellation is going to have a huge impact.
And even speaking culturally for a second, Alan, I mean, Chick-fil-A is one of the highest performing QSR chains by volume. I think they do 9 million or maybe a little more, $9.2 million per box. So when you think about just the sheer foot traffic going in and out, the people going in and out of these units, and granted, I'm sure a percentage of that is probably delivery, et cetera, but that's considerable. That is huge. I mean, and I guess as just a little bit of a fun question, what are your favorite brands? Where do you like to eat?
That's a tough. I don't know how many brand restaurants I go to be honest with you. I still like a lot of the little mom and pop shops, and I live over on the coast, out just down south of San Francisco, and fortunately or unfortunately, we don't have a lot of the big brands here. So I end up just going to a lot of mom and pop shops. But I certainly enjoy everything from Panda Express to Jack in the Box to In-N-Out to you name it, Chick-fil-A and others. And every once in a while I go through McDonald's. For me, it's convenience. But I really like the mom and pop shops, and I think that again, maybe Constellation in the future people can actually put something together here where there'll be more incentives for people to really go after the mom and pop and spend more time in their local community than some of these larger ones. But I just enjoy everything at this point.
As I think about, I just want to jump in and say, as I think about kind of the future, or rather the beginnings of an Amazon, started as an online bookstore, and now Amazon owns everything. They own brick and mortar companies like One Medical Group in the healthcare space. They own Whole Foods, and not to mention their work with government and enterprise. Um, I think about how Constellation today started not with the mom and pop or the individuals, but really with government and with enterprise. And I think as we look at Door Technologies working with brick and mortar retailers wherever they may be around the world, South America, LATAM, the US, Constellation's brilliant, truly brilliant strategies to go for the companies that have captured that captive audience, which, I can't wait to see where this company is going, because I think Constellation will be known as the Amazon of Web3. Might take 5 years, 10 years, 50 years, but I believe it will happen. Love to hear anyone's thoughts on this. Feel free to jump in. King Solomon's in the house. We have Ben Jorgensen sitting quietly.
What's up?
Alan,
Yeah, I was gonna say something real quick. In the agency space, and then the advertising, the branding space where I came from. Sorry. The reason why Amazon had the success it did, and why Chick-fil-A is having these successes, or with a lot of reasons why a lot of brands or companies are very successful, is they put the user at the center of the problem first, right? So Amazon's whole dynamic was built around putting the user at the center and being obsessed with that customer success journey. And so if you look at everything they've done, or every innovation they've made or a step forward they've made, it's all been rooted in how does this make the customer's journey better? And so when you start to build your software around the user need, and I think it was pointed out where Americans are not very patient. All of these things, when you start to really put the user at the center of your problem solve, you start to innovate and build around those solutions. And then you also find paths to different things you can pivot towards that you might not have thought about, just based on putting the user at the center of. Also, the other thing I wanted to kind of point out, in the grand scheme of this whole AI world and in blockchain and everything, everybody kind of complains about the speed and efficiency of blockchain. But the way that I view it as a technical person, I'm more worried about the spread of data graphically at the bottom of the funnel, and what has to happen at the top of the funnel to make the output of that data consumable for multiple parties. And so when you start to think about how you're going to reward users or make a user's journey better based on a lot of the work that you're doing with their data, you're going to start to put together a stack of software that is going to not only move that journey quicker, but get the top of the funnel and the bottom of the funnel in the right framework so that people that can consume it can do something with it, and the users can be rewarded for it, and you do it within a reasonable amount of time, and then you stay on top of that stack. And so I just kind of wanted to point a lot of those things out because I'm hearing that as everybody's talking, and a lot of times brands or people with a technical vision have the right idea, but without putting the user at the center and solving for that first, you don't get to the Amazon as quickly as you could, because that's what they're obsessed with, is that customer journey. And I think that if Constellation sticks in that mode of what is the delivery for the user at the center, or like the Fed at the center, or like the person that you're solving for at the center, you're always going to come up with the best technical solution that fits a large number of needs.
Solomon.
What's up, guys? Yeah, awesome spaces. Dagnum, Barry as well. A lot of people up here. And then Alan, nice to see you again, sir. It's been a while since we had the opportunity to do our interview. I mean, I go back to a couple of things. I think it was Alan when we interviewed him that mentioned kind of the iteration of the internet and looking at like e-commerce, and the first brand to really capitalize on like a mailing list was like Pizza Hut, and all the competitors were like out there in the wild, like basically like making fun of making fun of Pizza Hut until I forget which banking entity. I want to say like Bank of America or somebody integrated payment solutions in, and then all of a sudden Pizza Hut had thousands and thousands of users and an ability to kind of directly sell to those users. So I think that maybe that's a little bit after. I think that was Alan that said that after we kind of had that discussion, that really kind of resonated with like where we might be at with blockchain and DLT. But then on top of that, like I think Barry, you asked what are we excited about? I think it's interesting to like look at even stuff like Alpaca and the Metagraph. I think one of the biggest pain points from a lot of these layer ones is they get to a certain point and they almost become like these bureaucratic organizations that they can't reach out and talk to or support retail in certain ways. And I think that's a huge mistake. I think if you look across a lot of different ecosystems, I mean, that's maybe definitively like the major mistake. So like the ability to kind of meet the people where they're at and introduce like maybe primitives that like people that have been in the community for a while don't necessarily get yet. But if you look at the wider Web3 space and the problems that exist out there, things that like just make sense. Like when I look at like the Alpaca stuff, like the Metagraph aspects and having like community engagement and all the other stuff, I always think like, well, what's that going to mean for all the Metagraph real businesses coming on chain and launching a Metagraph, or projects building a Metagraph, to automatically have a way to filter with really engaged users and things like that. It's just been cool to like kind of watch everything. I'm excited about the hackathon, and excited for more projects to go live on their Metagraphs. So yeah, there's a lot, but yeah, you guys are doing a great job with this space too.
Yeah. So, Alan, again, coming back to your just wealth of expertise and knowledge in the space. I mean, it's I highlighted a video of you, I think it was like 8 years ago, and it was pretty funny that you were talking essentially about everything that Constellation is doing, but you were talking about it before they were even doing it. So, companies also tend to be sort of super risk adverse, right? So they're not, a lot of these major companies aren't just going to just leapfrog into something. A lot of them, I think, just dip their toes in it before they go all in on blockchain. And Solomon was talking about like a mailing list. Like, do you see like a lot of these Fortune 100 companies like using Constellation's Metagraph technology that way first, maybe, where maybe people aren't aware that it's happening under the hood, but somebody like Coca-Cola, for example, is doing it.
Yeah, I guess maybe a good starting point here is you have to understand large corporations and the people that are running technology, which is 70%. This is my estimate for what it's worth. 70% of the corporations, and these are large corporations, and you can kind of put the tech companies and the finance people, financial institutions off to the side. They don't apply here, but 70% of the IT leaders in most corporations are nothing. They're not even looking to enable their business. They're looking simply to be reactive and support whatever the business needs. So it's in those cases, digital or the head of or CMO or somebody to bring the ideas to them and for them to accept it. And those are people you don't want to sell to, because you're going to just beat your head against the wall trying to get them to understand something, and they have no intention of buying anyway unless it comes from one of the big suppliers. And that's 75% of them, or 70% of them. 20% of the people will be on the leading edge, and they will try things and they will try to move the envelope. And those people that really want to enable their business to do new things, and they've taken on that role of enable. And there's 10% that really view their role as trying to drive. And I think that the challenge here for any new technology, for anybody trying to bring anything into these companies, is trying to find that 10% and then maybe that next 20% and focusing on them. Within corporations is what I like to call is a deep state, and we can borrow it from political terms, but the reality is that there's so many bureaucrats running around in large corporations, they keep corporations from the ability to scale, and their job is simply to protect the policies and protect the processes that exist, because it's tied to their jobs, it's tied to their bonuses, it's tied to their stock options, whatever it may be. And I think the challenge is finding those things and building in mind to scale from day one, and not just building a pilot. You have to start small, I believe, in crawl, walk, run, but you also have to know where you're going. So, borrowing from the old Alice in Wonderland book, if you don't know where you want to go, any road will take you there. The reality is that's what happens in corporations. So, being very selective of which companies you're going to work with, being very understanding who is going to take that political risk inside, and again, that's no more than 10% up to 30% of the companies have those people, and then finding a way to give early success. And I think that as we look at what's going on with blockchain and we look at what's going on with Constellation, there are enough of those little things there that if you can get a success, and you can do something small, but show how you can expand rapidly beyond that, then you're going to succeed. And it's just a matter of picking out the right company and the right person at that company at the end of the day. And don't chase brands. Brand names are not a great way to do this, because most of the major brands can't get out of their own way fast enough. And you need to find those that are willing to do things. There are some legacy companies that will do it, but most of this happens with the newer companies, and that's always a good place to start.
And that's a good pivot here to Daniel. So we actually have another CTO in the house, Daniel McCoy, and he is actually a Web3 developer for Dfinity. So he's developed some things for ICP. So introduce yourself real quick and let us know what you're excited about Constellation.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you
Okay,
now.
sorry about that. I'm not quite sure what's trying to just play with my audio real quick. So you guys can hear me all right? Cool.
Yeah, I can hear you just
Okay.
fine.
I had to plug in my other mic. So, yeah, hey guys, my name is Daniel. As he had mentioned, I've been working on Internet Computer for basically since Genesis, so a bit over 3 years. I've built some really cool stuff over there. I recognize quite a few of you up here on the panel, especially Dagnum, when who first got us our two ecosystems connected in that magical space like a year and a half or so ago. So it's great to see you guys again, and great to see you guys still working hard. I've listened to everything everyone said, and I love everyone's ideas and their thoughts on Constellation and what they think it can help, targeting companies, how to move forward. And I've been kind of watching as well and kind of playing with some of the tooling, because a few things that Internet Computer can do work really well as like a sister network to Constellation. So a couple of things about Internet Computer that make this connection a little bit more special is that a lot of the pain points about other networks that were mentioned in the last like half hour or so are actually some of the same stuff that ICP aims to solve as well, including the stuff about latency, the stuff about everything falling back to some sort of cloud server or legacy database, kind of aiming to help to solve the companies don't want to move forward. Only very few people in the companies want to go outside the box sort of thing. A lot of that stuff is stuff we all believe in over here on the ICP side as well. But what makes our connection special is the way that ICP smart contracts work. Is not only can they store data and serve it over the web, but they also can act as servers. And this leads me to believe that there is a lot of synergy or potential synergy between Constellation and Internet Computer, where we can use metagraphs, and data being stored directly on a network such as Constellation, and filter it through and use it with Internet Computer smart contracts, since the smart contracts can actually reach out to other networks. I've begun to start to play with some of this stuff, and trying to make some pretty cool cross-chain functionality. I've played a lot with the Stargazer wallet and working on getting authentications working so that people can jump in and see kind of what we have going on over here, but also have started to play with Metagraph tooling as well, and looking at some of the open source stuff that has come so far in the last year, as a lot of this stuff has moved toward beta and out of the alpha stages. But really, I'd like to see if anyone else has tried to play with Internet Computer or has even looked into it, because I do think that there's a lot of things at this point that could happen. So our two ecosystems kind of have a very similar aim at solving similar industry level problems, including data privacy protection, stability, security, and adoption. So I'm kind of curious if anyone in here has managed to play with any of that yet.
Yeah, I've got that a couple different applications on Internet Computer. As I've been trying to work with you guys for about a year and a half now. And there's some amazing applications. Unfortunately, I don't have any developer experience, but yeah, it would be great if somehow we could find the perfect bridge, so to speak, that would allow both ecosystems to benefit. Now what that killer app is, I mean, I don't know. But we do have a hackathon coming up.
So I kind of wanted to just seed some ideas with that, which one of them is that so because the smart contracts on our side are WebAssembly based for all the tech heads in here. I guess I should start by saying, so I'm like a technologist by heart. I love the technology. It's less about token. It's less about price for me. It's about the technology. What can it solve? What can it do? And something cool about the internet computer, again, is that we have WebAssembly based smart contracts that can act as servers. But you can also wrap other networks' data into those smart contracts, either as servers or as NFTs, or just allow immutable ownership of those on other networks. So, one thought that I had was, what if there was metagraphs as NFTs on Internet Computer? Or what if, what if basically what I'm trying to look into and work out is a tooling that allows for those sort of super apps to be built, stuff that would basically make it easier for people to make the two networks interoperate. So like wallet tooling where maybe we could log in with ICP or Stargazer wallets and kind of own data on each other's network. Another thing I've thought about is like straight up embedding a metagraph into an app on ICP, and perhaps having it owned by a Stargazer wallet and a couple of things like that. So I know that also I believe there's been an exchange hosted on the Internet Computer. I think it might have been Sonic that has the DAG token live on their swap. So I do know that there are some other folks on ICP who really like DAG. I just think that there's a lot of synergy that has yet to be explored. So if anyone wants to take at it for the hackathon, would like some help, I have a ton of tooling and templates, and I'm working on a couple of things that I wish were more ready. But I would definitely like to open up some conversations and explore a little bit more about how we can help each other's ecosystems, because we definitely really like you guys over here.
Hey, that's awesome to hear. We've in the past we've had some kind of high level conversations with some folks in the ICP team, and looking at exactly this, that there is a lot of possibility of collaboration and interconnection between the networks, just because we're sort of not solving the exact same problem, but kind of going down a similar path. And I believe the only reason there wasn't something that kind of came out of those talks was that it was sort of a, well, who's going to build it? Should this be a core team? Should this be a third party? I think ultimately it really should be a third party that are building these things. So 100% would love to see some cross-chain ICP apps, or whatever it is, as part of the hackathon, or just otherwise.
I'm really a big fan of no code tooling. So giving the end users capabilities to launch stuff like databases, servers, smart contracts, NFTs, all that stuff without needing to know code, without needing to be a developer, without needing to even be a technically based user of this kind of technology. So really, that's more my specialty in the mix. So I'm kind of working on the bottom end, trying to work from the bottom up. But yeah, I've definitely gotten word from some of the Dfinity execs and the people over there. Again, they really they're really more focused on building their inner core protocol stuff, which I'm sure a lot of the people on Constellation are as well. I do agree that it should be a third party that builds that. So I'm happy to contribute, but if there's anybody else who's interested in working cross ecosystem, I've built a lot of no code tools and stuff that are really cool, and I think that there's a lot of potential for that over here on Constellation. So I'm going to keep digging into it. But if anybody would love to collaborate or open up combos about it, have any ideas, I'd love to hear them out, and just continue to connect, because there's definitely a lot of synergy and a whole bunch of potential for some pretty breaking stuff. Because as you said, we're really aiming down similar directions: data sovereignty, security, and we have a lot of good stuff building on both sides. Plus, I love that you guys are just constantly building. There's not a lot of networks out here that are just constantly improving what they're doing. The second and third parties are constantly improving their tooling to make things easier. Um, the ideas, the spaces, the community has, we showed up out of the blue. I know we're connected with Dagnum, and we were welcomed with open arms. And we would want nothing more than to continue that sort of warm feeling with you guys. So thank you guys, and I appreciate the time.
And if you're interested in no code tooling, we got Intrana in the space here, and they are working on a no code tooling system that they're bridging a quant bridge between Constellation and quant. So I mean, maybe you guys could work something out with them. I mean,
Yeah, I think we followed a couple of. I believe we followed each other back. I got a couple of people in here who've. I've been followed for a long time. I think I actually noticed a lot of people in here. But yeah, you definitely picked up some new connections here, and we'll be reaching out in due time to definitely explore some cool synergies, because I'd love to really dive in a little bit more. And yeah, I also do have a working Stargazer login in a couple of my apps. So after I get some tooling done, if you guys check my X homepage, my personal account, there's some cool apps I've posted on there. I would love to integrate Stargazer, Constellation as the first cross-chain mechanic to some of these apps that I built. So I'm definitely working on that first, trying to understand the authentication layer. But Metagraph is under study currently by me and a couple others that work around me. So we're definitely looking forward to jumping in as soon as we're ready.
Yeah, Daniel, we'd love to collaborate. Just talk about it, because for the hackathon, it's all about collaboration, bringing everybody together. And ICP is one. We actually went to an ICP event. Blake and I did about a month and a half ago, and met quite a few guys over in Fort Worth, and that was great. It was wonderful. I have a couple questions about like the latency and stuff, but like on-chain data storage is a really valuable tool set that we could bridge over to Constellation, and I really like that concept. So let's definitely talk.
You went to the ICP-CC, right?
Yes,
Yeah,
absolutely.
we actually were the ones who, me and the Swap were the ones who hosted the event. The Swap, Kyle, was actually the host of the 9-hour live stream for that out in Milwaukee. So we were up here in the Midwest, out in Wisconsin. So that was a really cool event. They had like pop-up little events all over the world where everybody tuned in to a global live stream. And we got to show off the global presence of ICP. So that's really cool that you popped in for that. Super happy to have you. And I know the people who were there, you definitely met some cool folks. So yeah, we should stay in touch. And I would love to chat a little bit more about what you're doing with Quant, because that's pretty similar to what I'd like to do with ICP. And if we figure that out, we have endless possibilities as far as tooling goes.
Yeah, and the no code stuff kind of gets back to what Alan, what you were talking about with the barter system. I mean, so do you see maybe some potential there if there was some sort of no code application to where maybe you can have two different things working together. Like I've got some Coca-Cola points, and I can use that for a Chick-fil-A burger.
Yeah, no, I think that's what I was talking about earlier about ecosystem. I think there's an ecosystem here between companies to put it together. Years ago, when I was at Coke, one of the things that we tested was, not in a digital sense, but people in India, when kids got out of school, the ones that had money, they had to make a choice. Were they going to, say, get some cell phone minutes, or were they going to buy a Coke and a bag of chips? And that's what they had money for. And we created an exchange program with a telco where they could use cell phone minutes to buy a Coke. And that was really going back to barter. And I think that the same concept here, we can modernize it. We can use the technology we have today to facilitate these type of things. But somebody has to create the clearinghouse and own that clearinghouse. And each brand, each company is going to need to set its value, because it's not one-to-one. But I think we're in a position now where we can start creating these exchanges. But it's going to take a lot of will. The other challenge you have and I had this discussion with the CFO of a large toy company a while back. One of the challenges that was sitting out there as well was that none of the legacy enterprises want to put any tokens on their books. So they need to be able to convert back, whether it's into fiat every single day. And so until some of these laws and regulations catch up, it's going to be difficult, because depending on what you're carrying and what your obligations are, like in the airline industry, the airlines have to put it's 1.3 cents a mile. They have to put it aside, something like that, for in an area where it's not part of their operating capital. Same thing happens with gift cards today. In whether you're in a clothing business or something else, you have to segregate those funds. So there's a lot of financial operational aspects behind the scenes that are going to have to get in place before it becomes widespread. But there are certain industries and certain areas that could be potentially be done through contracts that are then enforced by the technology for us to get there.
Alan, do you have you seen a shift in conversation with these massive companies, these conglomerates, regardless of industry, consumer, fintech, whatever, with the BlackRock ETF and Bitcoin? How did that kind of shift the conversation, if at all?
I have not personally seen it. I've talked to just a few CFOs that are friends, and I think it's almost as an impending realization that this is a change coming. However, I think that there's also, these companies are extremely risk averse, and it's going to be the domino effect. As soon as a few of the big, well-known ones come in line, then there'll be a mad rush. It's just hard to predict when it's going to be.
Pick one: Coke or Pepsi?
Well, I have to go with Coke, but once you work for the company, you're not gonna change.
So, do you see? I mean, obviously, like you were saying, there's some financial hurdles that need to be solved before Coca-Cola or Chick-fil-A goes full on digital and tokens. But what about like having some sort of mailing list, that validates that somebody has already used their app, because that's what these people want you to get sucked into anyway, right? It's their app, and you see that right now with McDonald's, right? So you can go to McDonald's and it costs like whatever it costs now, like $20 for a Big Mac meal. But if you get that same Big Mac meal and you buy it through the app, I think it's cheaper. And it's the same thing like with Delta. Like if I log in through the app, and I use my American Express Delta card, I get a lower cost. So like maybe there was some sort of like validation using blockchain where that can happen, and not necessarily using tokenization. Because one of the things that I've tried to highlight to people for a while is blockchain is so much more than cryptocurrencies. Cryptocurrency is just one little small plant in the big forest of distributed ledger technology.
Yeah, I think. I mean, I certainly think there are many opportunities for that. As you said, I sort of was chuckling when you're talking about the differential pricing and things of that nature. The reality is, if you log in, I've seen this myself with some of the airlines. If you log in and they know who you are, they actually raise the price if you don't buy right away. And so they're looking how much time you're taking to go back and look again, and they keep raising the price. And I just go in and clear the memory and cash out on my computer, and I get a lower price. So, which in Europe is illegal for them to do that, but in the U.S. you can certainly get away with it. I think that there are there are many opportunities to do things. It's really getting an education into the technology people as to there's a different approach that does scale, that will can provide you trust, it can provide validation, but it's a matter of, it's almost as if when you sell it, you have to sell it without leading that it's running on chain, and that what you really want to do is sell the capability, and then they just happen to find out that it's on chain later, because people just don't, you don't want to scare people away, because as soon as you hear chain, you hear token, you start thinking of crypto, and you start thinking of NFTs, and that's where these companies fall apart. It's really needs to become part of just the everyday infrastructure of a company, but people are having a hard time accepting that.
Alan, do you see better sustained interest or growth from, and when it comes to consumer brands in particular, whether it's CPG or brick and mortar retail, do you see more growth from privately held companies or public companies? And to that end, franchisors or just corporate entities where they have the whole say over the brand?
Um, Private companies have a lot more leeway in what they do, because they don't have to worry about shareholders, and I've seen that personally by working with a couple, and they have they basically, they don't care. They don't have to worry about audits as much. They don't have to worry about anything really. They're all ready to go. I think that what's interesting is in the franchise business, franchisees, the large franchisees have a lot more power than the corporations. The corporations, in many cases, what's happened is they've not served their franchisees well. And when somebody starts owning 200 stores or 400 or 500 stores in a chain that has thousands, they're a significant player now, and they have a significant amount of say. But again, the franchisees, the margins in these franchised environments are very, very thin, so they can't make the investment. Now you've got to convince the franchisor in order to spend the money, and in order to do it on behalf of the franchisee. And now you're going back and forth. Do you put more money into marketing? Do you put more money into technology? What do you do? And I think that we're at a point now where certain brands are realizing they're going to have to step in, and it's really a combination of the brand, the franchisor, and the franchisee all getting together, and there isn't trust between all three parties in many cases. And that's another place where where this technology can come in and play to help provide that trust. We're in a strange position right now with everybody's getting squeezed because of inflation. Everyone's getting squeezed for a whole variety of reasons, and nobody wants to step up right now.
Yeah, and actually, Barry, you bring some unique perspective in this particular area as well. I mean, like what are you seeing from a lot of these franchises?
Yeah, that's a good question, Dagnum. There's probably like two or three people in this whole space that know what I do professionally, and I've never talked about it publicly. So, excuse me, I just had some spicy sushi, so please excuse my cough. Yeah, look, Alan, to your point, you bring up a really good point, because as these franchisees, look, the franchisees pay 6% um, to the franchisor, and they kind of work together on marketing. It's kind of an interesting relationship between the franchisor and the franchisee. To your point, if there's a franchisee that has 100 locations, or 10% of the franchisor's total unit count owned by franchisees, I mean, they're in a pretty significant position, or even more, um, to influence maybe even how that franchisor does things. So that relationship is, um, at times can be tenuous. I mean, it just depends on the brand. Um, we're seeing, and I'm seeing a lot actually of a lot of large private equity groups coming in and scooping up some of these large national franchisors, and I'm in the U.S., so I'm speaking from the from the perspective of being in the U.S. Um, a lot of these large private equity groups kind of buying these national franchisors. I'll give a couple examples that many of you probably have heard of if you live in the U.S. or you've tried the food. Um, we can talk about Goldman Sachs buying Zaxby's, which is like 1,000 unit fried chicken chain. Um, Blackstone buying Seven Brew, which is like a all drive-through coffee concept, which would actually make for some pretty interesting loyalty programs. Um, I don't remember the name, but there's a 20-something unit car wash chain in California, I believe, and they've done some amazing job with NFTs, blockchain, and loyalty, surrounding loyalty. And I think the average, basically I guess, wash per car or wash per customer has gone up like 30% because of NFTs and loyalty. And that's a small case. That's 20 something units in I think, California. So, Alan, I think when you hear about these examples, granted that's a small niche, do you kind of view the NFTs of today, the collectible NFTs, as like the um, Happy Meal toy of the 1990s for like a McDonald's? What do you think about that?
I would hate. I wouldn't want to go there with it. That's not. I don't think that's what it's meant for. But I think that um, it may be treated that way by some. But I guess the question is, what value does it have? And if the value has between Zaxby's and the car wash, for example, if there can be an exchange there, then it actually becomes a method of which to have compensation and bring people together and create new marketing opportunities. I think when you think of franchises, I think I'm glad you mentioned the car wash, because most people just think of food. And the reality is, most of these gyms that we all belong to are owned by private equity firms and others as well. There's been a consolidation going on in the middle, where the brands have been getting have been more and more separated from the end user in many cases. And the NFTs, I think, possibly could be something that brings everybody back together. Especially if a private equity company did it within all of its assets that it owns. I mean, if you look at Berkshire Hathaway, if you imagine that Berkshire were to do something that would tie Geico Insurance to See's Candies to all these other things, think what they could do. There's a lot that could be done, but it's going to take someone to aggregate this stuff. And then the question is, who are all the aggregators going to be?
Well, I know, and I'm not speaking from experience that much, but if you eat too much Chipotle or Zaxby's, you probably will need your car washed. So, so yeah,
And I think you're talking about Ducky's Car Wash, if I remember right. But
that
it might
sounds
be
right. I think
Ducky's.
so.
Yeah.
I think so, actually.
Oh,
Yeah.
oh, really? There's Ducky's is the one with the dude. There's a Ducky's down the street from me in California.
Yeah, I think it's Ducky's. That's something in the back of my mind's just telling me that. I don't know why, but I've been to one once.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to check out Ducky's the next time I head back to California. Yeah, because there is a Ducky's at yeah.
Let's
Huh.
talk a little bit about. Oh, sorry, Dag. Go ahead.
No. I'm good.
I wanted to just talk a little bit. Alex Brandis, would love to bring you in here. What are you excited about when you think about the hackathon coming up? I'll jump in and say I'm sure OnlyFans has a whackathon, but Constellation's doing a hackathon. So can you maybe shed some light on why you're excited about this? Maybe I don't know if you could drop any alpha, but what are you looking forward to in the next few weeks?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the thing that I'm looking forward to with it is just sort of functional in that um, we're shouldn't say in need, but I think a big influx of developer talent, of focus on Constellation, of people actually building, is really what's going to kind of push this network to the next level. We'll see more of those projects launching. It'll just sort of snowball. So I'm just excited about bringing all these new developers in. We're launching the hackathon through a platform called DevPost, which hosts the majority of the larger hackathons for other crypto networks and other large companies. So they do a really good job, and they have a really big uh, reach essentially. So they can bring in hundreds, thousands of developers to take a look at what we're offering, get interested in the platform, and then ultimately compete for the prizes. We've got a really great prize pool. So the prize pool is $100,000 equivalent in DAG. That's provided part by Stardust and then part by Constellation core team. So there's a lot there. We've got some big sponsors for the event that we can announce at some point. I don't think we're ready to announce them just yet. And then the other kind of thing that's going on behind the scenes is just a lot of preparation for all of these developers that are coming in. So we want to make sure that if we get 1,000 or more folks flooding into our Discord, trying to build something, that we're ready with educational materials. We're going to do a whole doc site revamp that's going to include a lot of the concepts that are not well explained currently, and so allow these people to really succeed with as much kind of self-help as they can, because one-on-one help doesn't really scale to that number of folks coming in. The other thing we're going to be doing is a webinar series. So we'll be doing some video content with developers from the core team, some other kind of related content also around the hackathon. So showing people, how do we get set up with Euclid? How do we build a metagraph? We can, we'll probably look at the open source metagraphs that we do have. So kind of break down exactly what's going on with the Door metagraph, Alpaca. Also, some really good concepts in Alpaca, specifically around sort of data fetchers. How are we, integrating with third-party APIs, and then doing something that's ultimately simple, which is minting tokens for free into wallets. But those things that are somewhat simple to do on a metagraph can be really powerful, and so that's why we want to have some of this explainer content out there. So it's going to be, I think, a super busy summer for us. I don't think I said the hackathon runs for 8 weeks, so it'll start July 15th. It'll end in mid-September. I think we'll be announcing the winners at the end of September, and then potentially some sort of events afterwards that will be featuring those winners. And so it's just, I think this is exactly what we need to be doing. I'm really excited that we're able to put this together, and we're just going to have a big pool of projects to kind of push forward and funnel into the grant program, find ways to get them online, and just kind of create this bigger ecosystem of metagraph developers that's going to help everybody out. So
Yeah, and for those interested, at the top of the space, I got pinned more information about the prize and what it takes to submit your metagraph idea. So check it out. It's going to be good. Like you said, $100,000 up for grabs, plus a bunch of other prizes. Token events. What the world wants to know is, are you going to participate in the hackathon?
No. Is that a bad answer?
So to tie to tie in, some of these
Well,
NFTs.
I guess what I should say is I feel that we already have like an aggressive advantage to somebody that's like just ideating, right? We already have an operating business. I guess that's why I'm kind of like no, because I feel like ours is where it's almost like we're already there. And when someone's like really trying to, when I think hackathon, I'm thinking like hackathon, like developer hackathon, like limited amount of time to start up with something from scratch. We're already pretty far along.
Yep.
Yeah, you could.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think if you've got the skills, you can spin some of these things up pretty easily. I think these guys spun up that alpaca thing in like a day.
Yeah.
Little longer than
Yeah,
that,
which
but
is
yeah, it was a pretty quick one to bring up. And but yeah, I guess in terms of existing projects, can definitely submit to the hackathon. Anything that's submitted,
yeah.
it's got to be fully open source. So if you're hoping to not have your code open source, then that would break that. But I believe the official rule is needs to be significantly upgraded for the hackathon versus whatever it was previously. But I think the more the merrier.
There's the rub. See, we cannot participate due to that very thing.
But
That's okay.
tying in some of those NFTs, do you see like, so you guys have a non-fungible event that
Yeah,
could
non-fungible. Yeah.
yeah
So
that could
go ahead.
possibly tie in some of those things like a Chick-fil-A and a car wash, right? Like I could maybe get like a Coca-Cola and a t-shirt.
Correct. Yeah. So we take that data layer around that sovereign identity, and we are basically amalgamating all the different non-fungible experiences surrounded around that person or that ID, and being able to build out a strong digital identification of that user or of that entity to be able to verify who they are, and then do some of the things that you were talking about, like in the future, be able to bring together all these different loyalty programs into one spot, or to amalgamate all these different places where they are being loyal or they are a massive fan, and bringing it to our solution, and then also feeding that non-fungible experience into our micro moment engine. I know lots of acronyms, but our micro moment engine is really the AI product that lives underneath the hood, to where it's sending messages to both contextual advertisers or people wanting to get in contact with people with specific likes, dislikes, and then also the other direction, pinging the user to see their holy trinity of data, which is geolocation plus wallet spend, plus geolocation, wallet spend, plus affinity. So you're seeing in real time that data set, and it's able to talk to people on the back end, like a brand or a venue, to give them real time data analytics around what they should be serving to the people. And so it kind of all comes together nicely inside of our NFE, which is our non-fungible experiences, which are constantly updating during the moment, which is feeding that micro moment engine, which is sending directions both, or sending messages both outward to potential contextual advertising or relationships, and then back to the user where they're currently at in their journey in the purchase cycle.
In Toronto.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Sorry, I'm having some connection issues, but I can hear you, Dagnall.
All right. Yeah. What do you got up in the near term? You guys just had your token launch, right?
Yes, we just had our initial distribution. We had a fair launch, ICO, fiat only, KYC, that kind of thing. And what we're looking forward to is, one, all the cool stuff that Constellation is building. We're very excited about the prospect of the DEX, as well as some of the open tooling that they're going to make for the community. And as to attach to that, I'm very excited about what people are going to make from that. That's going to be really cool to see. But the hackathon, that's going to be wonderful to see all these devs from different ecosystems come together. And ideally, hopefully, some of our tool sets and some of the things that we've made will be of use for some of these people that are trying to bridge some of their existing databases or assets over, et cetera, right? We're looking forward to the launch of our platform. We're looking forward to the community testing that is impending, and we are very happy to have won the Stardust grant. We're very honored, humbled, and we couldn't be more grateful. So just really looking forward to getting on the ground, Testing has been going very well. Last little point is making sure the UI isn't buggy and it works properly the way that we want it to. And then everybody will be able to start using it, testing our functionality, and then we start onboarding businesses and letting people interact with our assets and as well as our bridging. So looking forward to the future and onwards and upwards.
I would love to ask you and Tron, are you guys going to be participating in the hackathon? And a question for Alex Brandis. Can you maybe share, you know, how is Constellation maybe defining success or, with the hackathon, or maybe some of the, goals going into this big event?
Yes, we will be. Alex.
Exciting. Have to see what you guys throw up, but that's great. Yeah, we do have the hackathon split up into two categories. So the kind of larger category is just focused on metagraph development, and the second category is a little bit smaller, but it's focused on tooling. So that could be tooling for metagraph development. It could be extending the usability of Stargazer to new abilities. It could be all sorts of things, block explorers, those sorts of things. So there's the kind of range everybody can throw in, kind of get in where they fit in. But yeah, in terms of success, we're really just looking for for projects that are going to get to a place that are near probably integration net ready. And so ideally we'd like to see 50 to 100 of those projects. That might be a little, we really don't know how much attention we're going to get. I think some estimates would have that be conservative and some would have that be aggressive. So we'll just really have to see, but we just want to get as big of an influx of developers as we can, get them up to speed, educated, and then at that point we'll have a larger group to push out. We've got a great smaller group now with grants coming from Stardust, some of the other kind of ways that we're that projects are getting onto integration net and kind of getting ready for release, and we just want to kind of put some more fuel in that fire and get a few more up to that same level.
Alan, boom! This is our time to shine. We could build that digital car wash we've always dreamed of.
Yeah, it's there's something to be said for that. I just need to find a way to get the robots to do the work for washing the car.
Well, unfortunately, I'm not at all technically minded. I actually had trouble logging into Twitter today, or X, or I'm not even sure what this thing is called anymore. So, yeah.
I'm still I'm getting knocked off about every 20 minutes. I keep getting dumped. So I'm not sure what's going on.
You sound like me in high school, man. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, I'm a full-on potato when it comes to anything like super technical. I've got a couple ideas, for some cool stuff, but yeah, we need to come up with the digital car wash, dirt and DAG.
Hey,
or
hey
something.
guys. So I do have to run here pretty soon, but I wanted to ask a couple of questions because now I'm in some DMs from this space, which I absolutely love. I love everyone's energy that you guys all want to. A lot of you want to just kind of hop to it and get going. I love the energy. I'm all about it. I would like to know So what I've been doing with Internet Computer lately is because you can store files on the chain, and they serve over HTTP. Basically, a lot of users of applications over here don't have to know that anything has anything to do with blockchain tokens, tokenomics, NFTs, or the rest, which I know there's been a couple of comments in here in the last half hour or so about the importance of kind of just hiding the technology. I mean, as a technologist, end users don't care. As long as it works, they don't get hacked, they don't lose money. Trust is associated with the brand. And if the brand is talking technical jargon people don't understand, somebody in here was spot on. The people, users and consumers are going to get worried. they're going to be, they're going to be hesitant when it comes to utilizing some of the stuff that some of our amazing teams have built or are building. So some of the things that I've been doing is on the side, I make websites for like DJs and musicians out here in New York. And I've been using on-chain mechanics such as the login internet identity that's provided by Dfinity for ICP to actually, I've made backends that allow people to store their, like, basically upload a file to the chain and have it change their website header. So if they want to, say a DJ wants to change their website header to their latest event or their latest image, they can actually do that themselves using an entirely on-chain website and infra without the need for wondering why it works the way it does. And I'm kind of curious for some of the Metagraph heads out here, how can we integrate that level of user friendliness and ease of use into everyday providers such as musicians or actors or even small business owners who are looking for websites and stuff like that? Because starting with the smaller consumer, that's a great way to get adoption and to get integration with the business world completely outside of Web3 technology, blockchain, finance, and all of that, and just hit the end consumer with something that works, secure, it's fast, the latency stuff, all of that. I'd really like to know how Constellation can assist with that, because I do think there's a lot of things that Constellation can do that the end user could use without knowing they're using it.
Dude, probably a good question for Alex.
Yeah, so if I understand the question, it sounds like Internet Computer, has some functionality that I think admittedly is a bit more mature than the Constellation ecosystem, where some things are kind of plug and play, and you can just drop in and move forward. You can still do those things with a Metagraph. For example, file storage. We don't have any native file storage currently, but there are connectors that you could build. You could use IPFS or Filecoin if you want decentralized storage. So all those pieces can be connected, but currently we don't have that out of the box in the way that ICP does. So it's definitely something you could think about, connecting a Metagraph to an application within Internet Computer and kind of making use of both sets of functionality. Metagraphs, I think, really shine with data in transit. So validating that data, streams of data, and getting rid of the data that's not valid or should be rejected for some reason. And then in terms of storage, there's all sorts of solutions you can look at, but there isn't a default one that we go to.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm looking to. That's kind of what I'm looking to explore mainly, is the connecting the ecosystems in a way that's adoption friendly. So I guess to clarify a bit further would be to say, like, I think that there's a lot of neat things that Metagraphs are used for that small business owners would love to have embedded inside of some of the functionalities that ICP actually offers. Not in terms of file storage, because it is a decentralized file storage, similar to Filecoin and such, but more on the side of verifiable data and data analytics, maybe receipts, databases for stuff like order books, and things that small business owners could use that we can embed into template-based applications that small business owners could pay developers to just spin up. And then it uses both Internet Computer and Constellation technologies, really without the tech talk on their end, more or less just basically I'm just trying to explore more in depth of how we can make these two technologies work. So I'm very interested in how metagraphs can serve small business owners.
And so to maybe sort of piggyback off of that, and maybe Alan and Alex can, from a high level like CTO, but like we've always heard the term like HGTP is going to replace HTTPS, and I mean that's kind of like a cool thing to talk about, but honestly, I think the hypergraph isn't necessarily going to replace HTTPS. I think it's actually gonna work alongside it, right? So you have like a multi-layered security environment, right? So HTTPS, you can have your it encrypts data anyway, right? But the hypergraph can secure the data on a much more like granular level, and it can validate the data itself. So if the internet ever got compromised, the data integrity itself wouldn't, right? I mean, am I sort of seeing that correctly, Alex?
Yeah, exactly. I think that's a point that folks get, can kind of stumble on fairly frequently, is that HTTP is actually run over HTTPS most of the time, and so we're using both technologies. The HTTP portion of it is around source attribution. So we're cryptographically verifying what the source of that data was before it was transferred to a metagraph. And so that's really has great use cases, especially around IoT, where we're saying, okay, we know that this device sent this data. It's completely unspoofable, and then we're going to embed that into an immutable blockchain. So it's it can't be tampered with in transit, and it can't be tampered with historically. And so that's that extra layer on top of HTTPS, where it's encrypted, but also we know where it came from, and we can verify that going forward forever.
Yeah, and that goes back to that edge computing that Alan has always talked about, right? Because you're validating the data at its source from inception, right?
Sure. Yeah. So there's validation of data at the source, which would be usually the producer of that data. So, like in the case of the door devices, it's the actual sensor. Um, is then signing that data, is sending it. If we're talking about some kind of edge use cases, you can imagine things like smart cities, where you have a whole lot of different sensor tech and different data producers that are delivering their data locally to metagraphs that are kind of validating a singular or a small thread of data streams, and then passing that on to um, uh, a larger database, or a larger grouping with all of the data combined. So you can definitely think about edge computing in that way, where metagraphs could have that role of validating at the edge and then passing the data along farther down the chain.
Yeah, so it's not really replacing HTTPS, but it's making it more secure, right?
Exactly. I mean, it's not a transfer protocol, it's not a direct, protocol that would need to be integrated in the same way that you would need to replace HTTP or HTTPS. And so in that sense, there's an advantage, but it's just adding an additional layer of security around source attribution, which is huge and completely, untouched at the moment.
Hey guys, I'm just going to jump in and say before I depart, I'm hitting a wall. But I'm incredibly excited for what Constellation has coming, and I'm just very grateful for everyone to everyone who listened in, and especially our speakers. And by the way, this space is not ending. I'm ending, so I'm going to go hop. But just wanted to thank everyone who joined. Dagnum, thank you for leading. Um, just everything you're doing for Constellation and the marketing, and you're a legend. Alan Bohm, I mean, oh my God. Dude, you're a legend. I can't wait for our digital car wash, token events in Toronto, Alex Brandis, Daniel from ICP, legends all. This has been a lot of fun. Can't wait for the hackathon. I mean, yeah, it's going to get crazy. I just can't wait. Excuse me, that sushi's hitting me again. But much love, guys. Hope everyone has a great night and all the best. Take care, guys.
Oh man, with that outro, I don't think I could carry on.
Yeah, I also got to get
Uh,
popping here. I gotta actually, I'm about to drive from New York to Philadelphia, so I gotta pack up and
yeah.
get ready to go. But yeah, thank you guys. Same thing here, same energy. Thank you guys for having me on the space. I love you all. A lot of you guys I've seen before. I'm super happy to stay connected with the Constellation ecosystem. You guys are amazing. Would not love to work with anybody more. So hopefully we all stay in contact. I will be doing some DMs here as soon as I land in my destination. I'll be very happy to start some conversations, and I would love to get some stuff moving and get some synergies cooking up on the stove. So thank you guys all for your time. Thank you also, Dagnum. Seriously, freaking legend, man. Love what you do for all the spaces, all the ecosystems, and thank you for being here in the industry. We really appreciate you. Definitely, guys. I will catch you guys on the next one. So have a great
All right, man. Yeah, looking forward to anything that Dfinity participates in this hackathon. It would be amazing to have just this, multi-chain approach hackathon. Alan, again, legend in the space. Can't thank you enough for your time. Time to me is the most precious thing here. Alex, same to you. I know you're recently a dad, and so again, your time is extremely valuable to us all. And love the initiative that you've been taking with us. Looking forward to the hackathon, which is like 2 weeks away. And there's going to be between today and the hackathon, there's plenty of stuff coming up. So remember, notifications on. And until next time, take it easy, everybody. Thanks for joining.